Hey there, guys and girls. Welcome to this radio video. And this video is about QSLs and QSLing in 2014, or in the years 2014 and on. I've been QSLing for about a little more than 30 years now. My first QSL I've received sometime in late 1982. And I always remember it because it was the first card, the first letter I've ever received from a station. And it was from WYFR with their transmitters in Okeechobee, Florida. And their studios were in Family Radio in California. And that was the first QSL card I've ever received from the shortwave bands. There were some questions about, QSLs. I have a few newbies that actually send me private messages saying, well, what are QSLs? And those cards that you show, what are they, and how do you get them? And that's probably a little harder today to get these cards than before. In the 80s, stations, the shortwave bands were still really crowded. It was very popular, and the bands were, full of signals, and pretty much everybody would QSL without any problem. As time grew by, shortwave stations slowly leave the shortwave bands, and now we're in a moment where the stations that are left actually have one big problem that probably everybody faces in their daily lives also. They're kind of strapped on cash. Most stations now have budgets that are very tight. So what's happening is that some stations really have said that they don't QSL anymore. An example, Radio Exterior de España, I believe, does not QSL anymore. Radio Australia does not QSL anymore. These are two examples. But a lot of stations, I would say the vast majority of them, still QSL today. If it's not a QSL card, well, usually they'll send you at least a little letter confirming or an email. And you have two ways basically that stations will today QSL. We have what we call EQSLs, meaning that the station will send you a QSL card via email in a picture that is attached to your message. But most stations will actually send you these cards by mail, and you'll receive these nice little cards via mail. This is probably still what is pretty much the standard, either cards or letters. So the first thing that we need to know about QSLs is how do you get a QSL? And this is the first part in a QSL card series and discussion here, because I'm going to make 2 or 3 short videos explaining different aspects of QSLing. So, how do you QSL a station? Well, it's quite simple. What the station wants to know is how you hear them. But what the station also wants to know is that you really heard them. And that's the other thing. You cannot, just say, oh, I heard you today on 9750, and you had a program in English and signal was good. That's not enough, because you could be lying. You could be, just to get a QSL, you could say anything. So they want you to do a little effort. And so QSL cards are basically today they're more of a novelty item, I would say, but for a long time QSL cards were sent out because stations wanted to know how their signal was making it in different target areas. And so to promote and to make people write to them about that, they would give you in exchange a QSL card, which is basically a postcard from a radio station with technical data of the frequency, date, and time that you've heard them. For example, this one from Radio Romania for a report of in 2008, for example. Another one here, this is Radio Romania. Another one from Sweden. This one's Radio Sweden, one of their last broadcasts probably in 2007 for the English transmissions. So this is from Stockholm Radio Sweden. That's not on air anymore. So what do you have to do to get these little cards? Well, the first we'll talk about how to make a report. What you need to do is write them a report that will contain the date, time and universal time. That's very important. So the date, the time and universal time, the frequency that you're listening to, the strength of the signal. Now, some people use this, what's called a simple code, which goes from 1 to 5, 0 to 5. And the simple means S for signal, I is interference, N is noise, P is for propagation, and O is the overall or the average of all these numbers. And it goes from 0 to 5, 5 being perfect reception, 0 being I don't hear you at all. But not all stations, although a lot of people understand the simple code, you can just, explain in your own words how reception was, if there was a little bit of interference, but you could still hear the program, and give these little details. Tell them what radio you're listening with and what antenna. If it's a little portable antenna with a small portable radio, for them it's even better than if you write, if I write with mine, saying I have an ICOM with a 50 feet wire outdoors, I'm not the typical shortwave listener. I am the, really big fan of radio that has this expensive radio and better than average antenna probably. So for them, that's not that much of good information because they know that I can hear them, but they're wondering because most people have only portable receivers. So if you tell them, oh, I have a small portable receiver with a little telescopic antenna and you can hear them, for them that is even better because it means the signal it comes in so well that even almost everybody actually with any radio will be able to listen to it. And the last part of your report should be at least 15 to 20 minutes of program detail. Program detail, names of the announcers, names of the music that was playing if you can. If sometimes it's a little difficult, if you're listening to Romania, for example, Radio Romania, and they're mentioning a local Romanian artist, I understand that it's kind of difficult sometimes to understand the names. So at least, tell them, well, at this time, at 02:05, you were talking about a local Romanian artist, for example, and you had a few of their music, or you were talking about their paintings or whatever. Give them detail that will help them look at your report and say, yep, on that day, at that time, we did talk about that. So you need to really put as much details as you can in your report so that they can prove without any doubt that you were really listening that day. So that's very important. So once you've put all these details, that's date, time, frequency, radio that you were listening with, the signal strength, how if it was, if they had interference or not, and at least 15 to 20 minutes of program details, that's good for a QSL report. But don't just stop there. Stations today offer QSL more as a kind of little service for people that are still into QSLing than anything else. They rarely need to have people tell them what the signal is about, except in certain occasions. But there are some ways that these stations now today kind of know if they go through or not. But when you write a report, also write about yourself and about what you like programs you like for the station that you're listening to, how many times a week you're listening to their programs, what you enjoy most, what would you change maybe that you don't like. So you give them details. That's the feedback they really want. So if you talk about yourself a little bit, tell them who you are, where you work, what you do in life, what you enjoy, and also give them the detail of what you like and you don't like about their station, and your favorite programs and all. I think that's probably the best report. The reports that have not only a QSL detailed report, but also some cool program information and highlight that what you like and you don't like. And also talking about yourself is, I believe, much better a report, and it will actually make that person at the other side where they're reading your letter or reading your email, give more of a chance to your report to go through, because you don't seem like a QSL hog. I admit, I was young when I was 15, 16, 17 years old. I was a QSL hog. I would mostly want QSL cards. Of course, I honestly wanted them to know that I was listening, though. But I was mostly a QSL hog. Today, I like QSL. I still enjoy receiving QSL cards. But, today I understand that there's more to writing a station than just saying, hey, I heard you on this frequency at this date. Here's the program detail. Please send me a card. They don't have to send you a card. They send you a card out of courtesy because they like doing it. But they don't owe you a QSL card. So don't be rough. Don't write any stations mad because you didn't receive a QSL. Never do things like that. First of all, they don't owe you anything except just their programs that they put on air. And second of all, QSL can be lost in the mail. And I believe, I've written thousands of reports with the years. I still have countries that I've never received QSL from. Yet I see on the internet, for example, that a lot of people did receive QSLs from some stations that I've never had one. So, some countries are a little more difficult to QSL than others. Today with the internet, one thing that's cool is that you can actually try to find out if a station QSLs or not. That's something that you should probably know. And if you don't know, well, just write them a nice little letter, give them the report. Usually what they do, if they don't QSL, they will say politely in the letter, well, thank you for your report. We're sorry, we don't QSL anymore. I believe I've received a letter or an email that was about like that from Radio Exterior de España. Because a few years back, I sent a report to get a QSL card, and I didn't know they didn't QSL anymore. And I received this very polite response saying, thank you for your report, thanks for saying that you listen to us, and it's very nice to see that you're still listening to our programs. But unfortunately, we don't have any more QSL cards. We don't issue QSLs anymore. So, don't be mad if they say they don't QSL. Keep in mind that these cost a lot of money, and if they have to send out QSLs to everybody that's listening, it's going to take a big chunk of their budget. You got to be careful about that. But if you receive a QSL, well, it's cool, and you put it in your little collection, and it's just always nice to have. So this is the first part, how to build your report, how to actually prepare all of that, put that nice little letter where you'll actually send out your report and the details that you have to put in. In part 2 of this video, we're going to talk about how do we send the report? By email or mail? How do you get the information of where to send it to? That's going to be part 2 of our QSL card videos. And also we'll talk about cost, because in 2014 it does cost a lot to send mail and to do all of those things, and a lot of stations kind of want you to pay for that return postage. Not all of them, but if you do, I'm sure that your QSL rate is going to be much, much better. So that's in part 2, where we're going to talk about sources for email address and for postal address, and how to send it, and what should you put in your letter and in that envelope, or how do you do a nice little email. So check that in part 2. That's going to be how you get all of that information and make sure that you get the best responses for QSLs. Hope you enjoyed this little series and that it helps you. And don't forget to watch part 2. Thanks for watching, 73.